The boy with the glowing head is Tony. Even though he is only 5 years old, he has been accepted as an apprentice in the field of rocketry. He is extremely diligent, witnessing the powerful rockets being launched into the sky. Tony dreams of becoming as strong as them in the future. To achieve this, he has sought out a martial arts master and joined the training under a village elder. Little did anyone know that Tony is a martial arts prodigy, so he quickly grasps the techniques. Even the older apprentices are impressed and have not seen him fail in any of his endeavors. 15 years later, Tony has become an incredibly brave Muay Thai warrior. He travels far and wide to hunt down the cattle smugglers to avenge his parents. It turns out that when he was young, he witnessed the ruthless cattle smuggler murder his parents, and the pain he felt was immeasurable, tears flowing like a river. Consumed by anger and vengeance, he found a large, heavy machete and swiftly struck the murderer in the chest. Surprisingly, the murderer didn't wince but turned around and handed Tony a dagger as sharp as a cane blade. Tony only had a chance to glimpse at the murderer's exposed back, where there was a tattoo, before he passed out under a quince tree without knowing when it happened. Upon waking up from his stupor, Tony found himself being cared for by his great-grandmother by a golden stream, luckily without any serious injuries. According to his master's account, on that fateful night, a mysterious man had come to his rescue just in time and brought him here. The man had also given Tony a protective amulet, saying that it would bring him luck in the future. With a determination to avenge his parents burning within him, Tony knew he couldn't lead a life of obscurity. Therefore, he embarked on a journey to seek a new horizon, ultimately becoming an apprentice as he had in the opening part of his story. In the early 1900s, rice farming in Thailand was flourishing. Consequently, buffalo became an indispensable companion for the farmers. As a result, the buffalo trade also became very lively. Traders eagerly imported buffalo from all over the place to buy and resell for profit. Every household was involved in buffalo trading, and people from all walks of life participated. If someone didn't have a buffalo, they would steal one, and if they couldn't steal one, they would resort to violence. Facing the buffalo thieves, Tony used his impressive martial arts skills. He launched powerful kicks like a true master, charging towards them to strike fear into their hearts. After defeating them in a fiery battle, he rode a flying knee strike like a god, chasing after them to finish the job. Tony wielded a fire ring with his elbow, taking down 2 of the gun-wielding thugs effortlessly. With the supreme techniques of the legendary Muay Thai martial art passed down by his master, Tony primarily used his knees and shins to bring down these thugs, rarely needing to use his hands. One by one, they fell before him. When 2 approached, he performed a simultaneous double knee strike, rendering them helpless, one silenced as a nightingale, the other with a shattered heart. Despite their foolishness for targeting the wrong person, they charged at Tony, who expertly adjusted his joints to strike their vulnerable points. His knees were like precision-cutting machines, agile and unforgiving, honing in on the danger zones. Some of the thugs tried to use hot irons as weapons, but they didn't realize they were facing a Muay Thai warrior who had trained since he was just a child. Tony moved like flowing water, and their attempts were futile as he skillfully dodged them, and one thug's attempt to throw a bell ended with his chest shattered by Tony's deadly double knee strike. As he fought, Tony checked their clothing for tattoos that might match the ones his parents' killer had, but none of them bore the mark. He had searched for years, and everything seemed to blur together. Although the enemy has not been found, the spoils of war after the battles with the inhumane pirate kings are herds of fat buffaloes. With the motto of robbing the poor to give to the rich, Tony will give them back to the poor farmers, so that they can realize their dream of carrying the plow and following the buffalo to increase production. While Tony always acts in good faith, good leaves cover torn leaves cover tattered leaves cover fallen leaves. Yet here there is an extremely wretched landlord who specializes in bullying ordinary people named Kudo. After he returned from going to the water outside, he immediately carried an iron buffalo to introduce to his relatives. Said that this tractor will make farming extremely simple for farmers. Just sitting cool and eating a golden bowl is not worth the effort. The relatives opened their eyes and looked extremely excited. They actually ate the soil of the scabby buffalo at home. However, when asked how much the basket cost, Kudo said that it was only the price of 1 jack. For poor people, 5 tubers are a fortune, so everyone shakes their heads in disgust, knowing that if people do not buy their own tractors, they will only have to scrape the ground to eat. Kudo immediately came up with a plan. If the farmer no longer had buffaloes to pull, he would definitely buy a tractor from him. To carry out this scheme, Kudo sought out a gang of thugs in the forest, led by a fearsome figure named Lulu, whose name alone carried the stench of brutality. Lulu was tall, dark, and exceptionally ruthless. Kudo proposed a deal, saying that that if Lulu's henchmen could defeat Kudo's own henchmen, he would hire Lulu's gang. Without delay, Lulu's henchmen attacked. Each of Kudo's henchmen who rushed in was swiftly dispatched by Lulu's dual-wielding swords. Even the ferocious Lulu pounced on one of them and incapacitated him. Then, Lulu's gang leader approached with a wooden hook, ready to strike, but it seemed he was no match. He was quickly defeated and subdued by Kudo's henchmen. However, what nobody knew was that Lulu's true strength emerged when he was overcome by hunger, unleashing a berserk fury within him. Lulu mercilessly beat Kudo's foolish henchmen, every strike feeling like 1,000 pounds. Finally, he put an end to his opponent with a vicious headshot, and in his hunger, he even resorted to cannibalism. Seeing this, Kudo instructed his gang to bring out wine and meat to feast upon. Lulu cared only for a full belly and intoxication. After satisfying his appetite, Kudo laughed heartily and assigned Lulu's gang a mission: to steal all the cattle and kill the livestock traders. This was the only way Kudo could sell his plowing machines and make money for himself. The next day, Lulu led his gang of thugs into action. They hid in the mud, waiting for the livestock traders to lay out their feast of wine and meat before striking. Lulu's insatiable hunger would boost his berserk strength to new levels at that moment. He struck down a guard with a single blow, then went on a wild rampage, attacking relentlessly without mercy. His gang quickly joined the fray, living up to their reputation as ruthless thugs, leaving a trail of blood wherever they went. Lulu seemed somewhat deranged, pausing in the midst of battle to sit down and eat like a voracious beast, paying no heed to anything else. In the blink of an eye, the traders were all lying lifeless on the ground, not a single one spared. Following Kudo's orders, Lulu and his gang captured even more buffalo caravans. They plundered a significant haul and returned it to their hideout. Kudo planned to sell these buffaloes to a slaughterhouse for a substantial profit, and he couldn't contain his delight at the prospect of the enormous sum of money he would make. Since then, villagers have fallen into poverty, having to carry the plow instead of the buffalo. The next day, Lulu and his juniors continued to act. This time he played a big game to see if people would admire him as he prepared to rob a huge herd of buffalo. Not only that, these traders are also led by a magician named White Crow. He is known as the protector of the buffalo herd because no thugs have been able to rob him of his buffalo herd. As usual, Lulu waited until his hunger drove him to action. However, he didn't anticipate that the fiery warrior, Tony, was also present at the scene. Tony had been silently observing the situation and was planning to intervene when the time was right. As Tony had predicted, Lulu impatiently fired a shot at White Crow, hitting him in the chest. In response, Tony and his gang immediately charged in. They fought fiercely against Lulu's gang, wearing them down until Tony could step in. At this moment, White Crow, after consuming a magical copper candy, fell to the ground seemingly lifeless but then quickly revived as if there had been no parting. Tony noticed a tattoo on White Crow's chest that matched the one on the murderer who had killed his parents years ago. After all the days of searching, he had finally found the culprit and was determined to seek vengeance. It turned out that the rumors were true. White Crow possessed incredibly potent magic. He even cast spells on 2 of his henchmen, transforming them into crazed monkeys and wild tigers, sending them to attack Lulu's gang. Tony unleashed his aura, but White Crow managed to evade it. With his magic, White Crow could control everything, even making massive objects charge towards Tony without lifting a finger. However, Tony was not an easy opponent. He expertly destroyed every obstacle that came his way, whether it was a broomstick, a piece of paper, or anything else. He knew that in long-range combat, he would be at a disadvantage. Tony flew through the fiery ring and swiftly charged at White Crow, delivering a powerful blow to his chest. However, immediately afterward, Tony found himself in a tough situation, as White Crow had a few tricks up his sleeve. White Crow questioned why Tony wanted to kill him, and Tony explained that he sought revenge for his parents. Just then, the crazed monkey and the wild tiger, having finished dealing with Lulu's gang, joined the battle. The 2 of them displayed remarkable teamwork, launching consecutive attacks on Tony. With both attacking him simultaneously, Tony found it challenging to defend himself. The crazed monkey soared through the trees like a bird, while the wild tiger circled below, making it difficult for Tony to escape. The monkey swooped down to block Tony's path, but Tony managed to throw it against a tree. Meanwhile, the wild tiger was flung to the ground after a powerful strike from Tony. On the other side, White Crow was dealing with Lulu. He took one of Lulu's henchmen as a hostage and cornered him, intending to capture him alive. However, Lulu, unexpectedly revealing a connection to Aquaman, swam across to the opposite shore to escape. Returning to the headquarters of landlord Kudo, Lulu was scolded by him like water was slapped in the face because he returned defeated. However, Lulu says that they are not human. I shot him in the heart and he was still alive. He is a demon. I don't care if that guy is a male demon or a dyke demon. You have to bring that guy's remains back here so I can stew taro. Lulu says I know someone who can help you kill him. After Lulu's explanation, he led Kudo to a forbidden forest where a creepy, eerie house stood. It was the dwelling of the Black Crow. A beautiful girl, named Saka, suddenly appeared and said, "My father will meet you when the sun sets behind the mountains." It turned out she was the daughter of the Black Crow. They waited until nightfall, and Kudo was so frightened he ended up urinating in his pants. Trembling, he followed Saka to the second floor. When he saw the beautiful girl, he froze in fear, and the black crow remained hidden in the darkness, not daring to show his face. Kudo's body started deteriorating in a horrifying manner. Strangely, the black crow seemed to know everything without Kudo having to say a word. He explained that both White Crow and Kudo were disciples of a sorcerer. Due to jealousy of White Crow's power, he had set up a battle between them, and they fought fiercely, using all their magical skills and powers. However, when White Crow was weakened, he used a magical chain to bind the Black Crow's powers. White Crow didn't want to kill him but instead wanted him to live in agony. If the Black Crow saw any light, his body would disintegrate in excruciating pain. Nevertheless, the Black Crow knew how to defeat White Crow. Kudo agreed to help, motivated by the promise of fine wine and beautiful women. The Black Crow explained that to break White Crow's curse, they needed the menstrual blood of a young virgin with a scorpion birthmark on her pure white body, which happened to be Saka, his own daughter. However, finding a skilled warrior capable of performing such a task was no easy feat, as it was incredibly challenging to approach a single feather of the White Crow. Just then, from below, Lulu's voice rang out, claiming that there was a warrior who could accomplish this task. That person was none other than Tony, the one who had a deep-seated vendetta against the White Crow for the murder of his parents. Knowing that Tony hadn't yet avenged his parents and was relentlessly pursuing the buffalo trading caravan, Kudo devised a plan to bring Tony into their fold and assist them in eliminating the White Crow. Kudo hired a handrail girl to pretend to be his sister, then accidentally met Tony and said, "We went looking for the White Crow to take revenge. He killed my parents. I want to chop him into 100 pieces and cook him like chicken, but I don't know martial arts," so the Black Crow refused to help. Indeed, if you share the same enemy, you will become friends. Tony heard the old news, so he immediately asked who the Black Crow was. "Please take me to him." Right after that, Kudo took Tony to meet the Black Crow to test how powerful his martial arts were. Saka girl pretended to go downstairs, so Tony jumped down to save her as easily as candy. Seeing his extraordinary skills, the Black Crow immediately agreed to choose him as the person who would kill the White Crow. In the days that followed, Tony stayed with the Black Crow and his daughter, patiently waiting for the moment when Saka would reach her menstrual cycle, a crucial part of their plan to seek revenge for her father. During this time, Tony and Saka also grew closer, forming a bond with each other. As Saka was driven away from the well by the villagers due to her father's peculiar nature, Tony swiftly arrived to rescue her from the situation. This act of heroism further endeared him to Saka, and their affection for each other grew stronger. Tony also began crafting fireballs in preparation for the impending battle, and finally, the day had come. Saka wrung out a cloth containing the sacred water from the Rao Ram plant, and the Black Crow immediately took it to perform the necessary rituals. Everything was prepared and ready, and Kudo relayed information about the enemy's whereabouts. Tony bid farewell to Saka and gave her the protective amulet that a mysterious figure had given him years ago. He then set out on his journey to avenge his parents. At this moment, the White Hawk and his gang had arrived at a cattle inspection station before moving to another area. He went inside to complete the procedures when he unexpectedly encountered Tony, who was pretending to be a customs officer to ambush the White Hawk. Immediately, Tony activated his fire launching mechanism and launched a surprise attack. Caught off guard, the White Hawk was hit in the chest by a powerful strike. Tony then used his skills to follow up with a second blow. A firework device set under the floor suddenly exploded, causing significant damage to the White Hawk. Outside, Lulu and his group of skilled fighters, who had hidden in the haystack, rushed out to attack. While the White Hawk was in a state of shock, Tony used a cloth containing the Red Dragon's power-enhancing water from Saka and hurled it towards the White Hawk and his gang. Indeed, their magic was dispelled. As an ordinary person, there was no way the White Hawk could be a match for Tony. With a final strike, Tony sent the White Hawk flying a distance of 300 meters. At this very moment, Kudo, along with the Black Hawk, appeared. Indeed, he had been freed from the curse that once plagued him, and he was no longer susceptible to the burning rays of sunlight. Kudo sarcastically congratulated Tony for surviving the ordeal with the fiery ordeal. Tony was taken by surprise to learn that Kudo was the powerful landowner of the region. He couldn't say a word, and the Black Hawk began to make his move. The White Hawk quickly explained to Tony that Kudo was not the one who killed his parents. The Black Hawk revealed his matching tattoo and admitted that he was the true culprit all along. It turned out that both the White Hawk and the Black Hawk had the same tattoo on their chests. Tony had inadvertently trained his enemy, but it seemed too late to realize this now, as the Black Hawk's power was overwhelming. The Black Hawk delivered a powerful punch that sent both Tony and the White Hawk flying. Realizing the dire situation, Tony quickly used his fire-launching sports car to take the White Hawk and make a quick escape. The acceleration was extraordinary, and Tony's car sped away like a rocket on the road. As their pursuers tried to keep up, the White Hawk used his fire-launching powers to fend them off, causing them to fall behind. One of the pursuers managed to jump onto the car and attempted to strangle Tony. In response, Tony activated an ejector seat, launching the assailant into the air. At the same time, the two followers of the White Hawk, the Crazy Ape and the Mad Lion, were controlled by the Black Hawk, their psyches manipulated to chase after Tony. The Crazy Ape lunged at the car from above but was kicked in the neck by Tony and sent tumbling to the ground, lifeless. The Mad Lion descended from a high point but had its neck broken by Tony and was then used as leverage to jump onto the car. Eventually, both of them escaped a fatal encounter and found safety. At this time, the White Crow told the truth that 15 years ago, the Black Crow and I are two brothers who grew up wearing the same pants. However, he became more and more greedy, so he used his magic to steal buffaloes from villagers to sell for money from betting World Cup. I couldn't stand it, so I took action to liquidate a household. But out of respect for brotherhood, he did not kill him, but only cast a curse on him. Discovering a barely alive boy, I rescued him and sent him to a nearby temple. Then sent the monk a protective necklace to give to him. Tony remembered the necklace the monk had given him years ago and realized that he had returned grudges with gratitude. Blindly intended to kill his lifesavers to avenge his parents. The White Crow said that he had to send those two men to the altar to pick sticky rice so that the people would suffer less. At the same time, the Black Crow and Kudo returned to announce that Tony had died. Saka's face was as sad as if her house was on fire, but she still had to follow her father to Kudo's mansion to live. Even though Saka now has a better life, she still misses her day and night longing for her first love, which she still brags about. Before I could shake my shoulders, I became broken. I remember the day when two nights were the same. Remembering the bracelet he gave her made her unable to hold back her snot. The Black Crow is worried that Tony will return to take Saka's daughter's spinach juice and erase his magic. That's why he had to make her lose her innocence. With a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, the landlord Kudo immediately asked his father-in-law to become a goat. However, Black Crow flatly refused and said that if you drink fat, the groom must be me. At this time, the Black Crow and chess player revealed the truth. It turned out that Saka was not the Black Crow's daughter. 15 years ago when he was cursed by the white fruit, he was chased and beaten by the villagers like an animal. To break that curse, he went into a villager's house, stole a baby girl, and then hid in the deep forest to raise her. Saka's father chased after him and he died. As soon as Saka heard it, his heart felt even more painful. He wanted to be the one to kill her after so many days of nurturing her. However, suddenly he collapsed on the floor in pain. It turned out that Kudo had put rat poison in the wine to poison the Black Crow. Kudo slammed the wine bottle into the walnut's brain to send him down to the golden stream. But he was able to enter Kudo's soul into Kudo's body to take over his body. Now, two souls control the same body, making Kudo like a crazy ghost. At this moment, the rocket flew in. It turned out that Tony was there to personally challenge to rescue the beauty. Tony's juniors were all shot with fire and smoke by using rockets. His villa suddenly became like a hornet's nest. Tony rode the rocket inward like a god. He will deal with the remaining guys with his magic knee. Once the Muay Thai warriors have revealed their anger, they will taste the bitter fruit without missing a single one. After knees and elbows, happily, he gave them flying lessons to become captains. However, flying this way is very strange. Extremely beautiful flying kicks were launched, making these guys no match for him even if they used hot products. However, the situation is urgent. Saka is about to be attacked by Black Crows, so Tony needs to quickly come to the rescue. He bounced off the wall and went upstairs to rush in and give the Black Crow a shot. Taking the opportunity that he was in pain, Tony hugged the beauty and lowered the cable down. The Black Crow tried to jump down, but Kudo was scared to death, so he forced this corpse to run up the stairs to safety. Tony brought her to meet the White Crow. He told her to recite the spell, Umbala, si na si mioi. Then suddenly Lulu came to eat. He is hungry, so he is extremely strong. No matter how Tony attacks, he doesn't care. Letting Saka finish the spell to restore the White Crow's strength, Tony immediately knocked over the food tray to seduce Lulu. Whoever did this action made him much stronger. With one shot, Tony threw him outside. Tony had 3 health and 6 attacks, kicking off both his weapon and his head. However, the Black Crow now appeared again, truly an unlucky guy. From this guy selling onions to that guy selling salt. Fortunately, inside the house, Saka was able to restore the White Crow's magic. However, he was so seriously injured that he had to cut open his chest, take out the magic stones and give them to Saka. Told her to give it to Tony. Outside, Tony was beaten until he bled, and tomorrow the White Crow and his fallen flag appeared. The White Crow used its body to distract the Black Crow so that Saka could run to give Tony a handful of magic stones. With no more magic left, Kwa Trang took a fatal blow from Lulu, and Tony arrived too late to save him. In his rage and desperation, Tony transformed Kwa Den into a sandbag for a brutal workout. With the magical stones in hand, Tony unleashed his extraordinary strength. Kwa Den, however, managed to stand up again and attempted to attack Tony from a distance using his remaining magic. Tony responded with close combat, landing heavy blows on Kwa Den. The battle between them was fierce, with both fighters trading punches and blows. Tony's agility allowed him to gain the upper hand, Den, and he delivered a decisive blow by headbutting Quad Den's skull and then using a powerful finishing move to crush his opponent. Seizing the opportunity while Quad Den was disoriented, Tony sought revenge for his parents by targeting Quad Den's vulnerable area. As Kudo, the local landlord, attempted to approach Saka, he tripped over a rope laid by Saka. Meanwhile, Tony delivered a powerful punch, sending Quad Den's soul into Kudo's body. Saka used the necklace that Tony had given her earlier to bind Quad Den within Kudo's body, ensuring he couldn't escape. Tony then hoisted Kudo's body with the necklace high into the air and launched a firework, turning them into a blazing spectacle. Tony then leapt onto a tractor, and as the gasoline exploded, both Quad Den and Kudo vanished into the smoke and flames. With his enemies defeated, Tony soared off into the night sky on his motorcycle, leaving a trail of fire behind him. At that moment, the owner of the buffalo slaughterhouse also arrived. Tony sent his herd of river buffaloes up to chase, then stomped him flat and sent him down to become a butcher for the King of Hell. Everything is finally over. Tony has taken revenge and escaped FA. The two of them lived happily until their gray hairs fell into the grave. The movie shows us that bad people always have a bitter end. If you sell your conscience for money, the law of fruit and vegetables will not spare anyone. As long as we have wisdom, everything will be done. Today's movie ends here. If you feel this video is good, don't forget to like, share the video and subscribe to the channel to support Cat Clan. Thanks everyone.